Good morning, everyone. Welcome and thank you all for joining us for the Data Innovation Day webinar, our journey in piloting the Black Maternal Health Incubator Hub. My name is Ayana Woolfork, she, her pronouns, and I serve as the program analyst for workforce development here at BMMA. I am joined today by Milan Spencer, she, her pronouns, our associate director of workforce development and partnerships, and Danielle Rivers, she, her pronouns, our research associate. Again, thank you all for joining us. Before we get started, I'd like to take a moment to share a few housekeeping details. Everyone is currently muted and will stay muted during the call. To enable closed captioning, click on the closed captioning button near the bottom of your screen. If you don't see it there, you should find it by clicking more. At the end of our presentation, if time allows, we'll answer a few questions, so please utilize the Q&A feature box to submit any questions that may arise. We would like to first thank the Pritzker Children's Initiative for providing the seed funding that helped us plan and implement this pilot. We would also like to take a moment to thank our sponsors and donors for Black Maternal Health Week 2024. We want to further thank Baby Dove for the full launch of their Expecting Care campaign, which also incorporates the Black Birth Equity Fund Initiative and the Black Doula Directory Initiative, for which BMMA has provided thought leadership and input in the larger work we do to advance Black maternal health. More information on these resources can be found on Baby Dove's website. I'd also like to take a moment to send a heartfelt thank you to our executive director and co-founder, Angela Doinsola Aina. It was through her conceptualization and strategic direction that our Black Maternal Health Incubator Hub was born. And we are deeply grateful for her support and guidance along the way. Thank you, Angela. We have a full agenda today. We will do a brief overview of BMMA as an organization, which will then lead us into the journey of building our Black Maternal Health Incubator Hub pilot cohort at each level of implementation. The second half of our webinar will feature a discussion with two of our subject matter expert trainers and individuals from two of our pilot cohort organizations. Let's get started. I'll now hand it over to Milan Spencer, Associate Director of Workforce Development.
Thank you, Ayana. I would like to briefly go over BMMA as an organization and highlight some important aspects of who we are as an organization and the work we do. For starters, Black Mamas Matter Alliance are the founders and leaders of the Black maternal health rights and justice movement. BMMA is a national network of Black women-led organizations and multidisciplinary professionals whose work is deeply rooted in reproductive justice, birth justice, and the human rights framework to ensure that all Black mamas have the rights, respect, and resources to thrive before, during, and after pregnancy. BMMA functions as the premier Black maternal health professional organization, centering the technical, training, and developmental needs of the global Black maternal, perinatal, and reproductive health workforce through the following goals. We seek to change policy or introduce and advance policy grounded in the human rights framework that addresses Black maternal health inequity and improves Black maternal health outcomes. We cultivate research, leverage the talent and knowledge that exist in Black communities, and cultivate innovative research methods to inform the policy agenda to improve Black maternal health. We advance care for Black mamas, where we explore, introduce, and enhance holistic and comprehensive approaches to Black mamas' care, such as midwifery models of care, community-based birthing, and birth centers. And we shift culture. We redirect and reframe the conversation on Black maternal health and amplify the voices of Black mamas, ensuring we have a voice and seat at the table where decisions about Black birthing people's care is being made. The Black Maternal Health Incubator Hub pilot specifically falls into the advanced care of Black mamas bucket area by enhancing holistic and comprehensive approaches to Black mamas' care via education, skill building, and training. These trainings expand the overall capacity of our learners to provide better inclusive perinatal care to the clients they serve. It is important for us to always define and ground everyone in what we mean when we use the term Black mamas. This is especially important as the topic of our Incubator Hub learning cohort is inclusive perinatal care. We strive for inclusivity in both language and practice here at BMMA. Therefore, we use the phrase Black mamas to include a range of birthing people, cis women, trans folks, and gender nonconforming individuals that are of African descent across the diaspora. To those who care for and mother our families in our communities, whether they have given birth or not, we stand in solidarity with all Black mamas. Welcome to day 2 of Black Maternal Health Week, everyone. Founded in 2018 by BMMA, Black Maternal Health Week intentionally takes place in April, which is recognized in the U.S. as National Minority Health Month. Additionally, we began Black Maternal Health Week on April 11th annually to join dozens of global organizations in marking this day as International Day for Maternal Health and Rights, an opportunity to advocate for the elimination of maternal mortality globally. Now, let's get into our journey. We'll first discuss a bit about the Incubator Hub inception, overall purpose and goals, and pilot objectives. We set out to establish and pilot a Black Maternal Health Incubator Hub that would enhance the capacity of Black-led community-rooted organizations serving Black birthing people during the perinatal period and across the reproductive care life course, and to work towards equitable maternal and birth outcomes through systemic change at the community and state levels. This pilot is a key step in building out a fully functional Black Maternal Health Incubator Hub and will move us closer to hitting our target, which is the overall purpose you see here in the graphic. Our first objective focused internally, which was to design targeted learning pathways for cohort participants to enhance their ability to provide culturally congruent, safe, and inclusive comprehensive care to Black birthing people rooted in reproductive justice, birth justice, and human rights framework. The next 2 key pilot objectives were specifically focused on our cohort, where we are enhancing or improving knowledge of the key elements of reproductive justice, disability justice, birth justice, and human rights frameworks, including the intersectionality and connectivity of each framework. Next, we sought to apply frameworks to delivering comprehensive and culturally congruent perinatal care via tool sharing, learning, and skill building. Our roadmap looked like this. We'll discuss each area a little bit more as we go today. As we mentioned earlier, this effort was funded in part by Pritzker Children's Initiative. We were awarded funding to build our internal capacity, assess training needs among our stakeholders, and develop an implementation plan for the Incubator Hub pilot rollout. This was inclusive of building the learning pathway, application process and enrollment, and onboarding and orientation. Finally, we piloted the Incubator Hub in 9 community-based organizations that were eligible to receive a $10,000 implementation stipend, and we also conducted an evaluation of the pilot cohort to establish key indicators for measuring overall impact. Now, I will turn it back over to Ayanna Woolfolk to discuss how we built the learning pathway.
Thank you, Milan. The Black Maternal Health Incubator Hub's pilot core team consisted of an interdisciplinary cohort from BMMA, representing multiple departments. Each individual, along with the respective department they represent, played an integral role in the planning and execution of the Incubator Hub pilot. Shout out and big thank you to our core team. We mentioned our overarching goal is to develop the Black maternal, perinatal, and reproductive health workforce using targeted technical assistance and training. We were very intentional about this first pilot cohort being a space for a specific subset of our workforce to learn and build capacity. The development and focus of the pilot cohort approach for the Incubator Hub stemmed from data and learnings from BMMA's Safer Childbirth Cities Initiative project, funded by Merck for Mothers and Foundation Chanel from 2019 to 2022. BMMA embarked on a pilot project in partnership with our SCCI Atlanta partners to develop a trauma-informed, full-spectrum referral network of Black-led, community-based services. Throughout the project, we were able to conduct interviews and focus group discussions with the workforce at each CBO and with the labor and delivery hospital clinical staff, resulting in data that showcased areas of needed and desired development and training. Although the project was significantly disrupted by the COVID-19 pandemic, we were able to pivot the project by implementing a quality improvement assessment tool at each CBO and hospital partner, which then led to a concept model for the referral network. To that end, the learning topic selected and workforce type for the pilot cohort was inclusive perinatal care for Black paraprofessionals. Inclusion criteria for pilot cohort participation includes those who are Black-led and centered, community-based organizations serving a majority of Black birthing people throughout the perinatal period and are currently servicing or planning to serve queer and or disabled, differently abled clients and families. Once we had our topic area and our target audience, we then built our training team. Our subject matter expert trainers include the following individuals who are not only thought leaders and experienced trainers, but are also uniquely qualified to teach on these specific topics as members of these communities where we seek to engage and provide services for clients. Jaleesa Jackson trained on reproductive justice and its connection to birth justice, disability justice, and inclusive care. Jamara Amani trained on birth justice and birth justice framework. Dr. Bianca Laureano trained on disability justice and corresponding frameworks. And last, but certainly not least, we have Kai Tyson, who trained on inclusive care and supporting queer clients and families in perinatal care spaces. Of note, both Jamara Amani and Kai Tyson are partners within BMMA. We cannot express enough how thankful we are to this powerhouse team of trainers for educating our pilot learners. We will hear from two of them today, Kai and Bianca, later in the webinar. Our core team shopped around and researched the learning management system landscape and finally selected a platform that we thought would be a good fit. The selected LMS became known and branded as BMMA Learn. This snapshot gives you an idea of what the environment looked like for our learners. I'll now turn it over to Milan Spencer, who will discuss the application and cohort selection process.
Thank you, Ayana. Our application process spans several months in 2023. Our online application form launched in May of 2023 and closed in July of 2023 for an open application period of about 2 months. From July to August, we reviewed all eligible applications and made final selections. Accepted organizations were then notified in mid-August, and in September, orientation and learning began. We had an overwhelming response to our open application. We received 567 total applications. 110 of those were eligible for scoring after we cleaned for data and accounting for completeness and inclusion criteria. During the first round of scoring, the pilot core team utilized a scoring rubric developed in-house during the planning process. And in the second round from there, the top 27 applicants were contacted with follow-up questions that were developed as a result of gaps in the application questions that we recognized during the first round of scoring. Follow-up questions were more specific to the organization's experience with inclusive perinatal care in terms of communities they serve and how they serve them, as well as organizational readiness to participate in the learning pathway. Our review team then narrowed it down to our 10 final organizations. Ultimately, 9 organizations participated and completed the full learning pathway. Here are those 9, and we are so proud of them. Roots Community Birth Center, Iowa Black Doula Collective, Birthmark Doulas, Gulf Coast Doula Coalition, Village Birth International, who is also a BMMA Alliance partner, Birthing Beautiful Communities, we will hear from them a little later on in the webinar, MAME, or Mobilizing African American Mothers Through Empowerment, Black Down Syndrome Association, we'll also hear from them a little later on today, and Oshun Family Center, who is also, a BMMA Alliance partner. Each accepted organization was able to send up to 2 individuals into the cohort, and almost all sent 2 people. We had a total of 17 individuals making up our cohort, and the 9 cohort organizations represent a total of 8 states across the United States. Ayana will now discuss cohort learning and activities.
After acceptance and prior to beginning the learning pathway, our pilot core team thought it was important to develop an onboarding process that included orientation sessions for both the trainers and the organizations. Cohort orientation took place in early September of 2023. The purpose was to orient learners to BMMA Learn, discuss syllabus and expectations, discuss weekly cadence of learning and assignments, and introduce core team and trainers. Session 1 of the Black Maternal Health Incubator Hub officially began on September 20th, 2023. The learning pathway consisted of 9 weeks of learning from mid-September to mid-November. After each of the live learning sessions, participants were expected to complete a weekly reflection where they could share their reactions and thoughts from the week's sessions. Final capstone assignments were then due by December 15th, which was about 1 month after learning ended. And then we held an in-person project closeout convening for our cohort on February 9th of this year. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later. Here's a snapshot of our comprehensive syllabus, which showcases the flow of a typical week of learning and gives a general example of the topics and various weekly assignments and engagement our cohort participated in. As you can see, the trainers provided many resources in multiple forms of media to help create context for the participants prior to the training sessions. Our learners received a wealth of information, grounding, tools, and education over the course of their 9 weeks as they built their capacity to provide inclusive care for the clients they serve. Here's another snapshot of the learning pathway designed by our pilot core team. It was important to our team that all of the learnings built upon each other. So we worked with the trainers to develop a comprehensive learning pathway that allowed for our participants to gain applicable knowledge over the 9 weeks while building their inclusive care repertoire. We designed the placement of the learnings in such a way that all frameworks, reproductive justice, birth justice, and disability justice are intermingled throughout the 9 weeks after some initial defining and grounding concepts in weeks 1 and 2. To culminate their experience in the Black Maternal Health Incubator Hub pilot, participants were provided with a project plan template to guide them in developing an organizational implementation plan based on the learnings from the Black Maternal Health Incubator Hub. In addition to this project plan, participants were asked to make a 3 to 5 minute video summarizing the plan for their organization. The template was adapted for our use and instructed participants to use the learnings to establish a priority area, a goal, performance measures, objectives, and action plans. Participants were invited to Atlanta in early February 2024 for an in-person closeout project convening. Participants were asked to share their capstone projects and receive feedback from the rest of the cohort at the convening, as well as participate in final focus group evaluations of the Black Maternal Health Incubator Hub pilot cohort experience. Now, I'd like to introduce Danielle Rivers, Research Associate in our R&E department, who will give us an overview of the evaluation process and some of the key feedback we received during the pilot.
Thank you so much, Ayana. So after the Black Maternal Health Incubator Hub core team developed goals for the Incubator Hub, we really shifted to focus on how the evaluation of the pilot would look. So prior to developing any evaluation questions, the research and evaluation team reviewed the literature on different evaluation models for training initiatives. Our evaluation of the Black Maternal Health Incubator Hub pilot was informed by the Kirkpatrick evaluation model shown here. This model includes 4 levels in evaluating training programs. So the first level, reaction, measures how trainees, reacted to the training. The second level measures what trainees have learned. The third level evaluates how trainees have changed their behavior or applied information from the training. And the final level is the results level, which measures if anticipated changes have occurred as a result of the training, along with support and accountability of organizational members. We used the Kirkpatrick model to develop our guiding evaluation questions. So considering that this program is a pilot, we developed process and outcome evaluation questions to both explore the implementation of the Incubator Hub pilot and its outcomes. The team developed several evaluation questions, examples of which are shown here as they relate to the different levels of the Kirkpatrick evaluation model. So for example, in the reaction level, one of our evaluation questions is, to what extent was the delivery of the training modules suitable for the students' needs and learning styles? At the learning level, how did knowledge change across the participants after completing the training series? At the behavior level, to what extent and how have participants incorporated knowledge and skills gained from the training into their delivery of care provided to Black women and birthing people? And then lastly, at the results level, what individual level and/or organizational level changes have occurred over time after completing the training series? So, to answer these questions, we conducted a mixed methods process and outcome evaluation that included pre and post tests to measure confidence in applying concepts, knowledge, and satisfaction. We also conducted focus groups with the instructors or trainers, as well as the participant learners. To explore implementation, we conducted classroom observations for each trainer and also collected electronic data from the learning management system itself. So moving into some very quick preliminary data. For example, one of our evaluation questions focused on how knowledge changed across participants after completing the training series. In this chart, you can see the understanding of module concepts has increased from pre to post time points. We also asked participants about their satisfaction with the pilot. And overall, learners were satisfied with the pilot program, either marking it as satisfied or very satisfied. One participant learner said that this was a great experience and I feel blessed to be a part of it. I think with the learning from this first experience and once the technical bugs are streamlined, it will be an amazingly seamless and enlightening experience for anyone that gets a chance to participate in the future. Thank you for all the time, energy, and love that you all have put into this experience. Similarly, we asked instructors about their satisfaction with the program, as well as any recommendations that they may have had. One instructor said, I felt like the pilot was responsive as it relates to the sourcing of the topics. Honestly, it was refreshing to see what was pulled together. So I'd give it a 4.5 as well. So over the next few months, the evaluation team will complete the data analysis and write the evaluation report, which will be included in the final summary report for the Black Maternal Health Incubator Hub pilot project. We will also conduct a brief follow-up survey with participants to continue to explore how information and skills have been implemented into their work and services provided to Black women and birthing people. I'll now turn it over to Milan.
Thank you so much, Danielle. So that concludes the overview of our journey. We packed a lot of information into this first portion with the goal of giving you key pieces of the build out within the time frame that we have today. We are continuing to synthesize data and write our final summary report, which will be made available on our blackmamasmatter.org website upon release in late May, early June. So please look for that if you're interested in knowing more about what we did and the impact the Incubator Hub pilot has had. Now we're excited to move into the discussion portion of our day.
I am delighted to introduce you to our pilot cohort participants who have joined us today to share some insight on the Incubator Hub and their experience. Compassion, integrity, and dependability are the pillars of Tammy Jones' calling to encourage and promote wellness and healing for the whole person. Serving as Senior Director of Programs in Behavioral Health at Birthing Beautiful Communities, an advanced certified grief recovery method specialist, Tammy holds a bachelor's degree in business administration from the University of Toledo and a master's degree in business management from Indiana Wesleyan University. Certified in mental health first aid with over 27 years of professional experience in health education, Tammy also serves as a member of the Ohio Department of Health's Pregnancy-Associated Mortality Review Committee, Ohio Study of Associated Risk of Stillbirth Study, and serves on community health boards and works to normalize seeking help for mental health issues. As a visionary solutionist, motivator, and coach, Tammy received the Award of Excellence, Award of Gratitude, and has been honored by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention for her leadership in the Take Charge, Take the Test campaign. Tammy served as the project director for the Office of HIV/AIDS Services at the Cleveland Department of Public Health, managed multiple grants that supported HIV/AIDS and STD-related services, and oversaw activities of prevention, education, awareness, testing, and housing in the greater Cleveland region for over 18 years. Please welcome Tammy Jones. Krista is a cool mom of 4 amazing children, ranging from college graduate to middle school and every age in between. A breastfeeding mom to all of her children, with the longest stretch lasting until they were 5 years old. She also became passionate about birth work and supporting mothers and babies after working through her personal postpartum depression experiences. Healing is where she found herself, her strength, voice, and determination to rise above any adversities. Krista found her passion work, becoming a full spectrum doula with Birthing Beautiful Communities, a nonprofit organization dedicated to educating, advocating, supporting, and empowering families in Northeast Ohio. Now, in her role as the Director of Training and Community Impact, she has the honor of training new doulas in Cleveland and Akron, Ohio. Please welcome Krista Lumpkins-Howard. Crystal Lauderberry is one of the co-founders of the Black Down Syndrome Association, the pioneering national organization focused on addressing the distinct needs of Black families and their individuals with Down syndrome. In this distinctive capacity, she has had the privilege of engaging with thousands of Black families, gaining valuable insights, learning, and discovering innovative approaches to enhance outreach and accessibility. As a mother of a child with Down syndrome, her personal connection fuels her strong commitment to the work undertaken by BDSA. She is dedicated to ensuring that the organization stays true to its mission of connecting Black families within the Down syndrome community to resources that significantly enhance their lives. This involves addressing the pervasive inequities that create barriers to access, support, and education, thus fostering a more meaningful impact. Now let's go into our fireside chat.
Thank you for being here, everyone. So we'll start with learning a little bit more about your organizations and the motivation for the work that you do. So please tell us about your organization, who you are, what you do, where you're located, what motivated you to do this work. And I'll start with Crystal.
Good morning, everyone. So my name is Crystal Lauderberry, and I'm the co-founder of the Black Down Syndrome Association. We are the first national nonprofit Down syndrome organization dedicated to supporting Black families and their loved ones who have Down syndrome. This is a passion project, we call it, of ours. Myself and another Black mom, we both are mothers to Black boys who have been blessed with Down syndrome, and we saw that there was a need in our community. We are oftentimes unseen, unheard, and underrepresented for sure, not just in the Down syndrome community and the disability community, but just in the community overall. And so we saw that it was important that our voices be heard and people know that we're here, we're not going anywhere, and that we need support. And we need support from folks that look like. That was our motivation for starting the organization.
Awesome. Thank you, Crystal. Krista and Tammy, I'll send it over to you all.
Well, happy Friday, everyone. I am super excited to be here. So let's talk a little bit about Birthing Beautiful Communities. We are located in Northeast Ohio. We serve Akron and Summit and Cuyahoga County. So it's Akron and Cleveland areas. And we are an organization of doulas. And we have a multitude of programs where we support and offer doula services. We have our mental health services, which I'll let Tammy talk a little bit about. And we train women or persons to become doulas as well. Personally, Krista came here because I have 4 amazing humans and literally didn't know what a doula was about 12 years ago. So once I found out what it was, I was supporting family and friends and then just wanted to continue to do this work. So about 4 years ago, our CEO, she gave me a call. And so I've been here and I've been blessed to be the trainer of all of our doulas. And so I am super excited to be a part of the conversation today.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Tammy Jones, and I am the Senior Director of Programs in Behavior Health at Birthing Beautiful Communities. I've been here a little bit over 3 years, And I honestly didn't know what I was getting into when I took this position. It was kind of like, oh, this is actually my second career. I have a 26-year-old. I had no idea what it really was. Um, I was just like, oh, I'm just going to do mental health services. And it has blossomed to be able to have a network of individuals for our project called OWN, our Wellness Network, who are therapists, lay individuals, and clergy who are certified grief recovery method specialists to provide grief workshops to our parents and to our support persons. And also, we manage the PAIL, Pregnancy and Infant Loss Society project, in which we work with parents who have experienced the loss. So we are excited to be able to provide them with mental and emotional help in crisis situations for our clients.
So can we now go into a discussion about what motivated y'all to apply to the Black Maternal Health Incubator Hub? When y'all saw it come up, why did y'all say, there's a gap here and we'd love to be a part of something like this?
Well, I know for me, I was blessed to have a doula, and I tell people she saved my life because she really did. And it was the most incredible experience. Like, I don't want to cry. Like, it was the bomb. So to see when I saw the notification about this project happening, I was like, "Oh, this is something that BDSA has to be a part of." We have moms, like we are a group of moms, and we are birthing children who are going to be born differently abled, and we need to have this information and we need to have the support because we know what the statistics are for just Black maternal health. And then just it adds even more risk in your birthing babies who are different because there's all kinds of other considerations. And so because of my own personal passion about Black maternal health, I was like, this is something that this is the need that we need to address in our community, and we're going to do whatever we got to do to be a part of it. And so it's just been such a blessing to our organization that we've been able to be a part of this.
So full transparency, I saw it and was like, yes, go. And I said, Tammy Jones, I kind of signed you up for this, right? Because you're the maternal mental health side.
I love that.
And I'm on the other side. But literally for me, one of my first doula clients was a paraplegic. And I only was able to fully serve her because I'm a compassionate person. And after that, I was like, you know what? I really want to learn more. So the topics got me. I was like, okay, we're going to learn about birth justice, disability justice, reproduction. Let's put all this together and what this looks like. So I kind of brought Tammy in on this, but once we got here, I was like, oh, this is amazing.
We're so glad you did.
This is absolutely right. We're partners in crime at the agency. And she pulls me into all of her stuff. And I looked at the curriculum. I was like, I don't know, Crystal. I don't know if I can do this. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And so it was just really, expanding our knowledge, being able to learn more so we can share that with our parents, and being able to just expand how we serve, who we serve, and making sure that we are leaders in our community. So I truly enjoyed the curriculum. I was scared, but I enjoyed it.
Don't be scared. That's amazing. And I will say, obviously you're here. We love the two of your organizations, all 9 of our organizations that we selected. We are just blown away and so impressed by the work that you all were already doing. And so it has been a pleasure and an honor to infuse more skills, more education, more tools to what you all already possessed. And you came with great energy. And I can honestly say we learned from you as well. So thank you for that. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about the learnings and what you received as education and tools during the 9 weeks. How did that contribute to the capstone plan that you developed? And how are you operationalizing the lessons from the learning pathway on the ground, day to day in your organizations? So we'll start again with Crystal.
So for us, the learnings were there were some hard lessons, right? There was some personal learning that took place, some personal reflection that I'm grateful for. I was traumatized a little bit, but I was grateful for it as well because it was work that needed to be done, right? And I know that because I was part of the process of that work myself, and one of our board of directors, that's just going to make us help our families even more so, right? So I'm just so grateful for that. And with our learning, we learned that we knew there was a gap, but it just definitely, the learning just emphasized that there was even more of a gap for us in terms of mental health resources for our families. Again, we know that that is a big deal and it's important. And the research shows that we just don't get as much mental health support as we need, just as Black women in general, and then Black birthing persons. And so our capstone project was about providing not only mental health support to our families prenatally and postnatally, but also providing them doula services. So we are utilizing the stipend that we got to offer scholarships to our families to have doulas. Because again, like I said, my doula saved my life. And not every doula may be a life-saving doula, but we want to make sure that they are able to support our families as they go through this journey. And yeah, so that's what we learned and what we got out of it and how it is helping our organization.
Beautiful. Tammy, Krista.
So our project, we were kind of starting something new. We're talking about starting something new. So we already have a current project. It's called Open Moms and Change. And it is where we have doulas inside of our county jails, and they are able to assist incarcerated birthing and postpartum people throughout their pregnancy journey. So therefore, when they go to have their babies, they go to a hospital. They are accompanied, yes, by the guards, but however, once they get to the hospital, they are unshackled and they're able to have their babies with dignity. And we are allowed to come in as a doula because we've been there with them for however long that they have been behind, incarcerated. To be able, we already have a relationship with them, so we're able to really coach them through this process. And as a result, they're released. The baby goes to hopefully a family member. And during this process, the moms are able to breastfeed while they're incarcerated. And we're able to take the milk to the families for the baby. So we do everything that we need to do to make sure that she's still a mother, regardless of what got her to this point. She is a mother and she needs to be recognized and acknowledged with dignity and respect. So another part of that program in which we did with this project is called Exhale the Mind. So this is the education piece, the mental health piece, which is, my baby, this is what I do. So we created a curriculum. It's a 3-part curriculum in which we'll go into the jail 3 times a month and teach this curriculum on first lesson would be stress and anxiety. Lesson 2 would be depression and self-care. And lesson 3, navigating difficult relationships and moms. These are all things that these moms need to know, and probably some of the reasons that got them where they're at now. So we teach them strategies of coping mechanisms, how to deal with these issues and concerns while they're there. So once they're released, they can be able to live a healthy life. But we don't just leave them there. They're able to access our services outside. They're able to go through the recovery method workshops and be able to have counselors that look like us and understand our plight. They don't have to seek a counselor. We have done the lead work for them. We have vetted these counselors. These counselors are committed to the cause of mental health. And so therefore, we're able to connect them to services that actually helps and works for them. So being in this program, this pilot, we were able to incorporate, I really love the disability justice portion of the lessons. I didn't realize how much I knew until I was going through the curriculum and going through the lessons, because I grew up with that. I grew up with a parent who was disabled. And then we're working with individuals who are disabled in some form of action. So hearing the lessons from are facilitating, just like, oh, wow, this is around me 100%. And I may not know. My disability can be hidden, and I still have a disability. And so therefore being able to empower, our minds and also empower our workforce in this work is, what we're striving to do to make it come full circle.
The only thing I will add is that BMMA has come up with, I like to call it, you took us to birth, reproductive, and just disability justice grad school. And I mean, literally, this process has been eye-opening, but also for me personally, the terminology is what got me. I didn't know terms and all of that. Like, that was really helpful to kind of bring it together. Like, oh, that's what that, oh, okay. So those key moments were great, but then I will say the convening, us coming together and sitting at a table and having the opportunity to talk to Danielle and the other team, like it was really good just to kind of know that, oh, you had questions, if we were able to talk about that. So definitely you took us to birth grad school. Thank you so much.
We love that. And yes, the convening, I echo. The convening was amazing. It was beautiful to see you all in the same room with us. For those who don't know, they were heads on screens for 9 weeks. And so in February, when we came together, there was so much energy, positive energy, love, synergy in the room. And it really became this community of practice. And I hope you all are still able to communicate beyond that, but we had a good time. We had a time that day. We had a good time.
And so now to kind of culminate a little bit of this discussion, I want to ask each of you, what is your vision for inclusive perinatal spaces? You can take your time.
Okay, I'm just going off the dome. No. For me, I think it's a space that provides culturally sensitive and competent care that encompasses birthing people from all kinds of diverse backgrounds and that understands and respects our different cultural practices.
My word was respect as well. I put a person where birthing persons, Black or brown or whomever, can feel educated, supported, and respected during their experiences. I think that's a critical part of that, is that just feeling like, you know what, you belong, you are loved, you are well supported, we are here. So.
Well, my vision is for everyone to be empowered, to be able to come into a medical center or a support service agency and feel that they have a voice and they can be heard. And what they have to say matters. And it just doesn't matter to them. They're not having conversations by themselves or just within their household. They're actually going out into the world and bringing joy back into the birthing process, because our state right now, it is so sad. And so therefore, oh, I'm having a baby. Okay, is this what I do? I want to see, I'm having a baby. And this is what I can give. I am the giver of life. So therefore, we are the first teachers, the first, love humans that these little people get. And so therefore, we need to protect, our moms. Give them the tools to advocate for themselves so they can speak up and say, no, that is not right. This is what I want, and this is what I'm going to get. And if you cannot handle that, listen, there's another agency, another medical facility, and I'm going to go over there. And to be able to demand that respect and to be empowered to do so and to receive the care that you have desired, that's inclusive.
Well, thank y'all so much, Tammy, Krista, Crystal, for being here with us, not only today, but in this work. We are just blown away by the work that y'all do. We, selected y'all for a reason. We're so glad to see that what we put into this, that there's beautiful blossoming work coming out of it and going into the communities on the ground. And y'all are a major part of that. And so we really appreciate y'all for being here today and advancing the inclusive care for Black birthing people across the country. And so now we will hear from Kai Tyson via video. Kai, pronouns they, them, is an unapologetic Southern queer Black femme who enjoys yoga, building community, laughing, subverting the gender binary, and reminding people that they can fire their doctors. Kai is a sacred transition guide, entrepreneur, healer, consultant, and educator. As the founder of Kaluntu Reproductive Justice Center, founded in 2018, Kai is working toward a world in which Black women and femmes can live, thrive, and raise healthy families freely within a healthy community. Kai loves to hike, sew, thrift, create art, sing, and dream of a world in which education is intuitive and culturally responsive. They are originally from Nashville, Tennessee, and currently reside in Atlanta. Learn more about Kai and their work at kaluntu.center and collect with Kai via Instagram via at kalunturjc.
Kaluntu Reproductive Justice Center provides direct birth work and childbirth education services to families who don't usually fit in the mold of what we think of as a new family or a pregnant person. So this includes LGBTQ families, people with disabilities and chronic illnesses, people with alternative family structures like polyamorous families or single parents by choice, people going through divorces, folks who are part of a religious minority, a variety of marginalized intersections and marginalized identities. And we work with those families to guide them through the process of birth and building their family. So like I said, I'm a full spectrum doula that includes fertility, abortion, it includes birth, postpartum. So I'm really working with families throughout the reproductive lifespan. I have been a doula and a childbirth educator since 2018. I've been in and around the reproductive justice field for over 8 years. And then my background before all this was education. So I have 12 plus years experience in education, all the way from babies, toddlers to adult learners. So really what brought me to reproductive justice work was when my sisters, when my friends started to have kids of their own, and I realized how much I didn't know. And I realized that, you know, as a community member, as an auntie, as a sibling, I can, you know, learn what I can about how to have a healthy birth so that the people around me can benefit. Why does inclusive perinatal care matter in the landscape of reproductive justice? For me, I'm really led, all of my work is led by the principle of intersectionality, among other things. One thing Kimberly Crenshaw mentioned with the term of intersectionality is that it brought to light the invisibility of many constituents within groups that claim them as members, but often fail to represent them. And I found that the families that I work with, the families that I advocate for, they may already fit into a certain group. For example, they might already be Black, but they go to these spaces with Black folks and they don't feel represented as far as their disability or as far as their queerness or as far as their relationship structure. Especially in the South, a lot of Black spaces might be very Christian, very religious. And there's also, you know, there's Black folks who have all kinds of faith traditions. And so some of those spaces can feel really alienating and really isolating, even as this space is claimed to be for Black folks. And so we deserve better. You know, we all deserve better. We all deserve to have spaces where we feel like we can belong and we are seen for all of who we are and the multiplicity of our identities. Audre Lorde said we don't live single issue lives, and we really don't. And even folks who are heterosexual or in a monogamous marriage, and you know, folks who look like they fit within a certain norm on the outside, they may not fit in that norm on the inside. For example, approximately 60% of the LGBT community identifies as bisexual. And a lot of bisexual folks might find themselves in a straight seeming or a heterosexual looking marriage or relationship and family structure, but that doesn't mean that they don't have that identity, that they don't have unique needs related to their bisexuality or related to their experiences. And I think we do, all of us, a disservice when we assume that family can only look one way, that parenting can only look one way, because the fact is that as Black folks, the ways that we build family are not always normative. Even if we do have that monogamous heterosexual relationship, we still put a lot of value in our extended communities, and American society is not necessarily built for that. And so inclusive perinatal care means that all of us are more seen and more accurately represented, and there's space that's made for us and our lived experiences. The trainings that I offer to the community, so through the BMH-IH pilot, I offered a 5-part series called Redefining Family. And so within that series, we talked about things like the nuclear family structure. We talked about ways of Black family making across the diaspora, operationalizing reproductive justice and birth justice. We talked about how gender norms are very heavily represented in the process of birth, from the birthing person standpoint and as well as the baby standpoint. And then we talked about how to support LGBTQI families, how to build community, things like that. So I also offer other trainings, usually around community building, queering reproductive justice and birth justice. And then I also have a virtual self-paced childbirth education course that is intersectional and ungendered and focuses on the maternal mortality crisis and tangible ways to protect yourself while you are navigating the medical industrial complex. As a trainer in this cohort, I really appreciated this pilot program. The Redefining Family curriculum is something that I've been building out for the past couple of years, but this 5-part series was the first time that I have fully fleshed it out. And so I really appreciated having the space to do that and the ability to try out this new curriculum and see how it landed with folks, and really continue to refine this piece of the work, because it's become kind of the center of the work in Ubuntu is not only helping people build community, but helping folks redefine what family and community even means in the first place. Redefining family fits in well with the theme of intersectional birth justice, because the family is almost a microcosm or a fractal of larger society. That within the family structure, we see a lot of parallels with larger society. How women are treated, how people with less power are treated within our family structures often mirrors how people with less power, how women are treated in larger society. And it's really important to make those connections so we know the bigger picture of why we do this work with birth justice, to making sure birthing people and families feel supported, because we all deserve to have the families we desire. And it's very difficult to do that when you don't have the support that you need, and when you're expected to carry it all alone. My vision for the future of the Black birthing community is sovereignty. Sovereignty for all Black people, beginning before they're even born. My vision is for us to be able to have access to the resources we need in order to serve all families, that families have the resources they need to be able to thrive. My vision is really that we're able to create the spaces that we need for each other and for ourselves, where all Black people and families are cared for and feel a deep sense of belonging. That's my vision, that we all are able to find our space and our place in this world, and have the support and the care that we need, so that we can live our best lives, all of us, whatever that may mean, whether it's as a birthing person, as a non-gestational partner, as a co-parent, as an auntie, as a community member, so that we can care for each other and support each other and love on each other, and rely a little bit less on these systems that are harming us. Thank you for the opportunity to be a part of the pilot program, and I'm really looking forward to future iterations of the BMH-IH program. Thank you.
We are so appreciative of Kai for taking the time to share with us today, although they could not be here live. We are so grateful. Thank you, Kai.
Thank you so much,
Moving
Kai.
to reproductive justice.
Before we dive in with Bianca, there are a couple of things that we just wanted to center since we didn't have Kai formally in the space today. Kai did an excellent job of really pulling in the queer LGBTQIA component of inclusivity and reproductive justice. Kai did an extensive training series with our cohort on LGBTQI families, queer ways of building family, alternate family structures, Generation Z, and what that looks like and what that means in the context of birthing and perinatal care. And also did a really good dive into transparenting. One of the things that I think stood out for us with Kai's content is that they spoke to community don't come easy. That was one of their topics, I think, in like week 4, where they really talked about having a community postpartum plan. And that's something that, I don't know, Ayana, because you also are a doula, that's something that I hadn't really seen before, a community postpartum plan, but it's something that's so very necessary, I think, for birthing people. And having birthed 3 children myself and not having that postpartum plan, I was like, wow, how revolutionary, because we talk about how to prepare for birth. We talk about how to set up your birth plan and be very intentional about what you want to happen when labor happens. But we never talk about the after. And I think the after is where we need to start bringing some center and focus and having that postpartum plan where it's like, okay, who is coming over to help you and assist you if you don't have a postpartum doula? If you do have a postpartum doula, what does that care and support look like? What do you want to see for yourself when you bring baby home or when baby arrives on this side, right? What does that look like? So I know that the tools that Kai infused for our cohort were very intentional in bringing about this type of range of perinatal care, not just touching on queer families, but also touching on what does this look like for supporting as a village? Because our village is not a monolith, right? Our village has a number of different types of families. So what does that look like? And what do they need when they enter our perinatal care spaces in terms of language, in terms of feeling included, in terms of really just wanting that love from the village. So I think Kai did a really great job with that.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say that in watching what Kai was able to present, it was almost like connecting something from the past of how we have always done this in Black communities with how this looks for the future and how this looks as our society develops, right? So we have different people and different things that are a part of what we need to offer as birth workers, for Black birth workers in this time period. And I think that Kai's presentation was just very great at connecting those things for us and what it looks like for people who might know a little bit about traditional birth work and don't necessarily know how that looks in 2024 and what we need to do to make sure that Black families are feeling included across the spectrum in the perinatal reproductive period altogether.
Yes. And so I would implore anyone who's on this webinar to really think about, and Kai spoke on this during the training series, building community and building family, but Black ways of building community and Black ways of building family. We have our own ways of doing things. And in those ways, be very intentional and inclusive with who you consider to be a part of your community and a part of your village. And as you think about ways that you're building your own internal capacity around loving on someone, just remember that there are individuals that show up in our communities that are often marginalized to the side and not very much centered. And so we would definitely implore all of you all to consider that these folks are a part of our village. They need the love, the respect, the recognition, not just to be tolerated. They need to be loved on like we would love on anyone else in our family. And so I think that was an important takeaway. All right. Now we can move into, we do have a very beautiful live trainer here today for you all that we're going to talk to, Bianca. We can go into,
Hello.
I want to formally introduce you. Thank you for being here, Bianca.
Y'all know it's Mercury retrograde in this tech.
Yes. Trying to get back to where I was. Okay. So, Bianca, I would like to take this time to formally introduce you and let the folks know all the things. So Dr. Bianca Laureano, pronouns Dr. AI, she, is an award-winning educator, curriculum writer, and sexologist. She is a co-foundress of the Women of Color Sexual Health Network and Annie Up, a virtual freedom school offering professional development training and certification. She has written several sexual curriculum and sexual and reproductive justice discussion guide for the NYC Department of Health, published in 2018, and led the curriculum development for the Netflix film Crip Camp. If you haven't seen that, go check that out on Netflix. And the PBS documentary, I Didn't See You There, which are rooted in disability justice principles. She is an AA certified sexuality educator and supervisor, and in May 2020 was awarded an honorary doctorate from the California Institute for Integral Studies for her work in expanding the U.S. sexuality field. She is the editor of the People's Book of Human Sexuality, Expanding the Sexology Archive. Find out more about Bianca and her website at biancalaureano.com and about Annie Up at www.annieuppd.com. Thank you for being here, Bianca.
Thanks for having me. Hey, y'all.
Hey. And y'all heard that intro. We have some powerhouse trainers in this cohort. It was amazing. And so now, Bianca, once again, thank you for being here. And we're so happy to have you. Could you please talk to us a little bit about the work you do through your organization? Make sure you kind of talk about target population and all that good stuff. We just love to hear what you do.
Absolutely. Thank you. So I've been doing anti-up professional development for about 7 to 8 years now. And it started from my work as a sexuality educator, which I started when I was a teenager and started college in 1996. And I just noticed that I was being trained the same way, or other people were also being trained the same way that I was in 1996, in 2000, in 2018. Nothing had really changed. And I just noticed the gaps that still remain in the way that we're trained to support our communities in understanding sexuality topics, especially when it comes to making informed decisions, but also ones that are rooted in body autonomy and a liberatory praxis. And it just wasn't there. So I decided to fill in the gaps of the ways that a lot of sexuality professionals are being trained. So a couple of ways that looks like is a lot of people love the language of justice. So people would love to be like, oh, reproductive justice is great, without really understanding what the coalition building, political aligning framework is. They didn't understand how storytelling is a component. They didn't understand anything beyond the principles, let alone the history or the founding mothers. So I created a class around reproductive justice. It's the same thing that happens with intersectionality, right? We have these Black feminist gifts that many people are never taught because they're being taught by racially white people who are not in community with us. And so people are misusing the language of intersectionality And so I have a class on intersectionality, that's our theory class, right? So it's filling in the gaps of what remained to really allow whoever identified as wanting to learn more could do better work and show up for all of us within a lens of collective liberation. So 2 of the classes that I teach are around disability justice, and they're specifically for people who are working with individuals in their bodies. So I say it's specifically for sexuality professionals, but if you work with people in their bodies in any particular way, that is also, you're welcome to join and learn a little bit more about how do we imagine a world where all of our bodies are welcome, that there's no wrong way to have a body, and that we're creating environments where all of us can be welcomed in. So it's a certification program. There's 10 classes and some extensive trainings. And I've been, training and teaching for decades now, but this is really where my home base is. And I get to evolve and create new courses. And I have one of the few courses for sex educators about abortion. And the fact that I'm saying that in 2024 is wild to me, but you can become a sex educator without knowing anything about abortion or abortion care. So that's a little snippet of what we offer and what I do at Antioch.
I love that. There's no wrong way to have a body.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. And I know you touched on it a little bit just now, but can you discuss a little bit more about the trainings that you offer to the community, or how you engage with the community in terms of learning that's outside of a cohort?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I take a really interdisciplinary approach because coming to this work as a sexologist with a focus on sexuality, it isn't just a biomedical model, right? We can't just use a psychology model. So I really pull in from the humanities, using images and videos and media and poetry, for example, also pulling from anthropology and sociology. So it's a really multifaceted approach that also is deeply rooted in what bell hooks would call engaged pedagogy, and really allowing people to not just learn new information, but also connect it to their lived experiences and understanding, oh, I am moving within a framework, and I also can be a theorist within my own life and understanding what's happening and finding the solutions to what our communities are experiencing. So I really do come in and support people in understanding something a little bit fuller. And it usually is about their bodies. So I do a lot of work around disability. As a disabled person who's multiply disabled, it's really important, I think, for people to hear from us and know that we do live full, beautiful lives, and that we maybe acquired disabilities as we age, which is what I did, and that we still imagine a world. That disability is not something that we got because it's like karma, or because we sinned, or that's just how it goes, right? Like it's part of life. If we're given the gift of aging, we're going to experience disability. And so I do a lot of that work, especially with medical providers, people who are working with pregnant people, who are supporting people who are either seeking abortion or planning a birth plan, or experiencing disability after birth. So I think those are the pieces that are really important to remind our communities of, is that, yes, if you survive a traumatic birth, that is amazing. And you might also experience a disabling environment or experience with your body. And I think those are the important pieces, that disability is also a changing body. And if we're not talking about changing bodies, unless it's puberty and then menopause, we're missing everything in between. So I do a lot of work around helping people understand where their biases may lie, but also helping them understand what their boundaries are as providers, because I believe you don't have to work with everyone. You don't have to be prepared for any topic that people bring in that you're trying to care for and support. If you don't want to talk about sexual violence, you don't have to talk about sexual violence, but it's important for you to know that and also be able to offer powerful referrals. So I help people through the trainings experience those kinds of really somatic experiences in the space, right? So really bridging the body, the mind, the spirit, the heart, to allow us to fully become present in the work that we're doing, as opposed to being disassociated. So it really is a multi-prong approach on supporting people in that process to really embody and understand, oh, this is what's going on. And this is why we need to extend our, paternal leave programs. This is why temporary disability isn't enough. We need to expand it a little bit more. So it can look like policy. It could also look like culture in a particular work environment.
Well, I think this actually segues really well into our next question, which is discussing your experience as a trainer in the cohort and specifically why you felt like this training fit very well into the subject matter of inclusive perinatal care for Black paraprofessionals.
Yeah, I think because this was a pilot program and y'all were really building it based on what you saw and heard the need to be, this was definitely a requested piece, right? There was definitely a clear component that needed to be brought in around disability. So in many ways, like I've always known it's connected, and it was really beautiful and great and affirming to hear that y'all understood that it would too, and that you were seeking to incorporate and really allowing me to dream, like what would a particular series of courses and experiences feel, look, and be like. And that was really great. So oftentimes people usually want us to come in for 2 hours and then never see people again. And I don't think we can create change that's sustainable in just 2 hours. And so, so we had 5 courses, 5 sessions, and it was a gradual, scaffolding and building on knowledge and experiences and understanding. And so really starting with language, the power of language, the ways that we communicate, not just verbally, but also non-verbally, which I think is really, really important. And also the ways that Black community members from all over the diaspora may have different ideas of disability, and really bringing that back into our community for us to assess and consider and share, like what is happening? Why do we use language in a particular way, and how can we really be intentional about the language that we use to not isolate disabled Black people who we love, we care for, who are here, who are going to be here in the future. And so that was really where we started the cohort classes, was with language and a more embodied experience of what is going on in our communities and the communities that we're part of when we're talking about disability. And the next several courses in between were really an introduction to the ways that we think about disability here in the United States specifically. So it was an examination into the ways that we are treating disabled people, the way that our society thinks about disabled people. And that moved us into, a biomedical model, shifting that into like a policy model. What are the ways that the what's the word I'm looking for, that our government really surveils us in order to assess whether or not we can access resources. And then going into the civil rights movement of the disability rights movement, which led to the ADA. And then from there, we went into a disability justice focus, right? So understanding what is the legacy, what is the history, and also understanding why do we need a Black-led or Black-centered disability justice approach, especially within Black birthing and pregnant communities. So that was one of our last sessions. And then the final session was a panel with Black disabled birthing people who had either carried a pregnancy to term, experienced abortion, or experienced miscarriage. And that was a really important session so that people could hear, not just from me or videos that we saw, but really the ways that these individuals needed support, the things that they wanted their doulas or future midwives to understand, so that they could be prepared in supporting Black disabled people. It was also important, I think, for them to hear that many Black disabled people do not have a diagnosis until later in life. So it might be when they're pregnant or after pregnancy or right when they're starting to plan. I think those are pieces that are really important for people to consider, is that you never know who you're working with that might be disabled. And so how to make our practices and approaches a lot more accessible. And so we wrapped up with offering I forgot what we called it, but it was like an accessibility manual, right? And so that I think is really useful, right? Just if you want to offer something virtually, here's some things to consider. If you want to do things in person, here's some other things to consider. And really also acknowledging the impact that long COVID has had on Black communities in the United States, and acknowledging that that's going to lead to more disabled people So those were some of the components that I think were really helpful. We had great conversations, we pushed each other, we were challenged, and also learned new things together throughout our time.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And I'm glad you brought up the tool that they built with you, because we've been saying all morning, like our cohort got not just education, they got tangible tools that they could take back and utilize in building out programs on the ground in their organization. So that was really a key piece. And also another thing you said about invisible disabilities, or disabilities that folks can't just outright see. I think that was one of the aha moments that I saw attending one of your sessions, that our cohort was like, I need to consider that anyone I come in contact with to provide perinatal care services can have a disability. Yeah. And what that care needs to look like, extending to them, even if I can't outwardly see it. Such powerful work. And we had three of our cohort participants on earlier, and they did mention like some of the stuff got really heavy, and just there was a lot of just information that sometimes is not as easy to take in, but those conversations, they felt supported, and they felt like this is exactly where I need to be to learn these things. So thank you for that. Next question. So why did you feel, and this was also another impactful session, I think it was our very last session of our cohort, why was it important for you to bring a personal lived experience panel into the learning pathway? And so folks, our cohort got to really engage with disabled and pregnant and parenting individuals. And so that was really powerful.
Yeah. It was so important for us to learn from each other. And I believe that we build wisdom and webs of knowledge across a variety of different experiences and communities. And so hearing from, it was Pux and Lene, as they shared their experiences as disabled Black femmes who are both queer, Pux was trans, and talking about what it was like seeking support. Because I think those are the unique experiences that we often don't hear about. Because when we think about and consider Black disabled people and their experiences, those are usually the erased ones, especially Black, queer, and trans disabled people. And so having these individuals share, this is what was happening, I didn't have a diagnosis yet, but this is what occurred when I was in the birthing room, or this is what happened with my in-laws who took the baby from me in a really particular way, right? I think those are really important messages to understand and to learn from, and also recognizing the way that ableism, right, the specific form of oppression that disabled people experience when we think that there's a certain way bodies and minds should move or think or practice. I think it was really, really vital and important to me that people had a diverse understanding that disability may show up as a mental illness. It may show up as a physical manifestation. It can show up as a cognitive, disability. And so it's not just something that we need to learn to correct. It's something that we need to recognize as a part of our lives. We're not broken. We're fully whole the way that we show up and experience these things. And I think it's really important for birth workers, people supporting pregnant people and their families, to understand the vast ways that ableism shows up, whether it be in a labor situation, whether it be in checking in to the systemic stuff that happens in the healthcare system in the US, and knowing the ways that we can literally doula people through those systems. And the best people to learn about those systems from are the people who know them because they're in them. And so that's what Pux and Lene were able to offer. And then Robin wasn't able to join, but was gracious enough to offer her contact information for people to reach out to. So it was also one of those moments where I was like, oh, y'all should hire these people too, right? Like I should not be the only person talking about this stuff. Like here are people who can also speak on it. And if you do something at your own home base, welcome these individuals in to come and talk as well. So it was really more of a community collaborative approach, as well as one that really values the storytelling component of the reproductive justice framework. So those are, I think, really important to weave through the full pilot program.
Yeah, I definitely want to emphasize as a doula, it was just very awesome to see lived experience be a part of a training, because that's not very often what we get as Black paraprofessionals, like doing these trainings. We learn all the terms and we learn all the stuff, but we go out into the community and we have never experienced really like what this actually looks like in practice. And so it was really great to have a panel of people who could be like, this is exactly what I experienced. And this is, this would have been great if I had a doula, or a doula was there to say this or advocate for me in this way. And so I really, really appreciated that, not as, just a member of the team, but as a doula, getting to kind of intake some of this information as well.
Mhm.
And so it brings us to our last question for you, Bianca. What is your vision for the future of the Black birthing community?
Yeah, my dream and my vision would be about liberation, right? A liberatory experience where we definitely get to decide how we want to build our families, and also one that's expansive and that recognizes that people who are child-free by choice, like myself, are also vital members of the community and are a part of helping raise our children. So I really envision a world where there's no forced sterilization, which is still legal in 48 states of the US for disabled people, that there is no attempt to oppress people's sexual expression, especially if it's from a consensual liberatory space and no one else is being hurt, and really focusing on pleasure and joy being at the center of our lives, and celebrating each other as we move through all the milestones of building families and creating communities.
Thank you so much, Bianca. And before we let you go and move on, we did have a question that came in, and I think you may be really good to offer some perspective on this one. How can we better discuss expansive healthcare to our legislator to ensure folks with disabilities and of the LGBTQIA community are included in legislation and policy? And before you answer, I do want to plug that BMMA has launched a comprehensive policy agenda that speaks to some of that. It came out last year. It is on our website, the full 60+ pages. I know we also have team members here in the chat if you want to link it. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think this is a really great way of, again, weaving in, the Black feminist gift that is intersectionality, which, from the Kimberly Crenshaw framework definitely is connected to laws and policy. I think it's also important to remember like that was a practice that we engaged in prior to having the language of intersectionality, right? And so one of the things that many non-Black people hate to hear me say is they want to use and incorporate an intersectional analysis or a practice, right? And I always tell them intersectionality is a relational theory. You have to build the relationships. You have to consider the relationships that you have to yourself, to the systems that you're moving in, to other people in the world, and also thinking about how you're connecting, right? So if you're not building the relationships, taking the time to build the relationships, then it's not really going to happen in a way that it needs to. So my response to this would be, we need to connect with disability community. We need to build relationships with them so that we can welcome them into the movement work and allow them not just to be respondents, but really to be folded into making decisions and into the leadership capacity. So it's not just hiring us as consultants. That's definitely one of the pieces, but it also looks like collaboration. It also looks like reaching out to certain communities that we're noticing are not included. So if you don't have deaf or hard of hearing or late deafened or deafblind community members, what are the ways that you can make connections with them, right? Maybe it means you had to start building connections with Black disabled ASL interpreters, because there is Black Sign Language, there is American Sign Language, there is Spanish Sign Language, right? And so being able to allow people to freely communicate in the words and the language that is most unique and best for them. It takes time to find those interpreters. It takes time to reach out to those Black community members. And with the internet and with things like TikTok and Instagram, we can find them a lot more easily, right? We have Black, deaf, and hard of hearing community members who are teaching us Black Sign Language on their videos, right? So the ways to reach out to them, I think, are really vital. Welcoming them in and saying, this is what we're experiencing, this is why we want to build with you. And knowing that there is a lot of intersection around queerness, transness, being gender expansive, as well as disability. Those are identities that always definitely inform each other. And if we're thoughtful about the way that anti-trans legislation is being created today, we're noticing how deeply ableist that legislation is, right? Where it's saying, you don't know your body enough for you to make those decisions with your provider about what to do. And how can you imagine somebody saying that to you about your decision to use a contraceptive method or not? Oh, you don't know enough about your body. You're not making the best decision. That's literally what we're doing with many trans people, especially young trans people in this country. I think the next layer to that is also incorporating intersex community members, right? So people who have a variance of sex assigned at birth, genitalia, chromosomal makeup, etc., who are oftentimes encouraged parents are encouraged to have cosmetic surgery on their infants, right? So here we have a situation where we have trans people who are fighting to get the care and the affirmative care that they want. And then we have these children, these infants who are not being considered. Their lifelong capacities and experiences with pain are not being considered. And they're being supported. Their parents are being supported in giving them basically what they believe is gender confirmation surgery. So it's this weird pitting of the community that is not real. The trans and intersex community are like, we're in it together. We are not against each other. And yet that's what our legislation is doing. And I think that is why we need people with that lived embodied experience guiding that analysis and helping move those agendas forward. And finally, I think disability affects all of us. All of us. Maybe you broke a leg in the past. That was a debilitating experience, right? It doesn't have to be, oh, I have a diagnosis in a particular way. That is a very biomedical administrative model of disability. Disability justice reminds us, if you align yourself and self-diagnose as whatever, we welcome you into the community because we believe you, we trust that you understand your body, mind, and you're an expert in it. And I think for many people, they get caught up with that. They're like, but a diagnosis is supposed to be more real. I just want to remind us that the medical community was built on our ancestors' bodies and minds. And it was based on our bodies and minds and dehumanizing them and saying this isn't enough and this isn't worthy. So moving with that and embracing that ideology is in direct violation of Black liberation. And I think that is the information that we'll get when we're in community together. So if you find yourself being like, oh, I don't have any disabled friends, or all my friends are autistic, or all my friends are whatever, think about who is not there. And I think that's what intersectionality invites us to do, is really examine the power, the oppression that exists. And also understanding for ourselves, like maybe you're listening to me talking, you're like, am I disabled? Is that a disability for me? I don't identify as disabled. And that's fine. It's a process for everyone, right? And I think that is also important. Disability community, we welcome people at any part of this journey. And it feels how it feels, and we got to feel those feelings. And we're not going to shame each other for those feelings because we know what it feels like to be isolated. And so if we're isolating disability community, that is a direct violation of liberation. So we really need to go to where disabled people are. And that means we got to leave our communities sometimes. Maybe it means we got to go to the other side of wherever where we don't ever go to. Maybe it means we have to go to the places where disabled people are living or are institutionalized, and figure out, what do we do? How do we do it? I think that's totally possible. And I think for some disabled people, it also means working within community, because many disabled people are cared for by community members. And also many of us can care for ourselves or in community with others. So it's all about building those relationships and making sure that the agenda and the process and moving forward is informed by people who are living it in the moment and not just watching it happen. So hashtags like CRIP the vote, CRIP the vote, are really powerful. You can find those across all the social media spaces. And so it's really helping disenfranchised, disabled Black people become individuals whose votes are going to be counted, whether it be in local or national elections. And so that's a great way to start and to notice who is in this, who's talking about it, where should I stay connected, and what are the just asking ourselves, like, why is it that disabled people's mail-in votes aren't being counted, right? Like, those are really important components to think about and also find solutions to. It's a long answer, but it's a complicated.
We needed every piece of that. Thank you so much. Amazing, powerful. We're in an election year, so timely. Thank you for that, Bianca. And we're gonna let you go. Bianca has trainings to do shortly, and we understand that. Thank you so much for being a part of our Incubator Hub pilot cohort as one of our featured subject matter expert thought leader trainers. It's been an amazing experience working with you, and we appreciate you. And our cohort also still has your contact information in case they're like, hey, I have a question about this. And so thank you so much for lending your expertise and being open to that as well. We appreciate it.
Thank you all so much. And thank you to everyone who's here listening, watching the recording. We need you. We need to do this together. So
absolutely.
Have a great rest of the week, y'all.
You as well. Thank you. Okay, we are going to transition to the final portion of our day. So what's next for our Black Maternal Health Incubator Hub? Research shows that Black maternal, perinatal, and reproductive healthcare providers are uniquely equipped to provide care that results in improved outcomes among Black women and birthing people, especially when proper training is involved. Developing a workforce that is culturally competent and sensitive to the needs and experiences of Black women and birthing people is essential. This includes understanding the historical context of systemic racism in healthcare, addressing implicit biases, and providing care that is respectful and affirming of Black culture and identity. By investing in workforce development, healthcare systems can ensure that all Black mamas have access to high-quality care throughout the perinatal and reproductive health continuum. This includes preconception care, prenatal care, labor and delivery, postpartum care, and family planning services. The existence of learning hubs and institutes that center Black women, film leadership, and expertise, and those that build capacity, skills, and education for those caring directly for Black women and birthing people are relatively new, rare, and often underfunded. Those that do exist are largely under-resourced and in need of consistent, sustainable funding sources. We cannot continue the work of building out our Black Maternal Health Incubator Hub, inclusive of training and learning offerings that are both live, asynchronous and synchronous, in-person or web-based, without sustainable funding. We will continue our efforts to seek out and secure funding sources that can continue to propel BMMA's Black Maternal Health Institute and Incubator Hub forward. We are so excited to receive supportive funds as a new grantee of the GE Healthcare Foundation. This will aid us in offering an e-learning series this coming fall of 2024. So please all stay tuned for more information on that if you are interested in learning from us.
For more information on issues and policy recommendations impacting Black maternal health, please be sure to check out the BMMA Comprehensive Policy Agenda on our website. For everyone who wants to get involved in Black Maternal Health Week, be sure to follow us on social media platforms, sign up for our e-newsletter, and check out the local events page to see if there's a local event happening in your area. Check out our hashtag BMHW24, as there might be other Black maternal health community events happening in your neighborhood. Also, please save the date. BMMA is excited to bring back our biannual Black Maternal Health Conference and Training Institute scheduled for September 12th through the 14th, 2024 in Atlanta, Georgia. Please be sure to sign up for our e-newsletters to be the first to secure your spot. We want to thank you again for joining us for today's Data Innovation Day webinar, Our Journey in Piloting the Black Maternal Health Incubator Hub. Thank you all to all of the powerful speakers who are on the ground doing the work and making the necessary changes Today, we honor you not just because of your work, but for who you are and the positive impact on our communities. We extend our deepest gratitude for lending your expertise, energy, and time today. We hope you have a wonderful Black Maternal Health Week. Be well, everyone, and take care. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.